Hello guys, welcome back. In our previous video, we had started with chapter 4 in that 4.1 which talks about registration. We have covered section 22, 23 and 24 guys, which talks about who should get registered under GST. So we will do some problems on this, whatever provisions we have already covered. Come to the problems, which is at the end of this chapter. Yeah. Come to the problems. We will solve some problems. Let us start. Yeah. Problems. Gopal Das and Company, Kolkata, is a manufacturer and a registered supplier under regular scheme. So Kolkata also might play a role, West Bengal. It furnishes the following details for the tax period ended 31st March 2019. Excuse me, sorry. Intrastate supply of goods, which includes GST, 70,80,000. It is inclusive of GST, so please be careful. Important. Goods exported, which is GST nil, means actually if you have exported, it is a zero rated supply. What they are trying to tell in the bracket is it is not a nil rated supply. It is actually zero rated supply. GST paid is nil, because as the zero rated supply, you can export the goods even without paying the tax. Okay, so what is the value? 32 lakh. Then inward supplies which are liable for reverse charge, 6 lakh. Transfer of goods to branch at Delhi. So from Kolkata you are transferring to Delhi. Distinct persona? Yes sir. So is it a supply? Yes, it is a supply. Without GST, how much? 50 lakh. They are asking you to calculate aggregate turnover. Compute aggregate turnover under section 2(6) of the CGST Act. This question is only on that, which is an examination question guys. December 19, 5 marks. Yeah, see laddu, how they are putting laddu into your mouth. They are opening your mouth and putting laddu into it. Clear? 5 marks easily you can get. Only aggregate turnover guys. Clear? Nothing else. They are not asked anything addition here. So first define what is aggregate turnover as per section 2(6). So what and all it includes. So mention that. Then show the computation. So intrastate supply of goods, which includes already GST, but aggregate turnover should not exclude GST guys. You know that. Okay. So excludes central tax, state tax and all, it has been mentioned. So 70,80,000 is inclusive of GST. So exclude GST on it. Only calculate value part. So in rule 35 we have seen, if the value is already inclusive of GST, how to calculate the tax amount or how to calculate the value amount. 70,80,000 is inclusive of GST, 18%. So divide it by 118 into 100. You will get value excluding GST. Okay, sir. Next, export supply is a zero rated supply. Your aggregate turnover includes exports. Okay. Next, inward supply under reverse charge mechanism. Inward supply on which the recipient is liable to pay tax will not be included in the recipient's turnover. It will be included on supplier's turnover. Whereas here for Gopal Das, there is an inward supply on which Gopal Das is paying tax. Should it be included in their turnover? No, sir. In the bracket you can see here, excluding the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable by the person on reverse charge basis, it has to be excluded. Okay, means simple. Only outward supplies should be taken guys. Okay. Not to be included, nil. Then transfer of goods to branch at Delhi without GST, still you have to include it because it is a supply between distinct person. You can see here interstate supplies of person having the same PAN. So here Delhi and Kolkata obviously both would have been registered under the same PAN. This point is, it is falling in this point. So Delhi and Kolkata both are registered under the same PAN. Yes sir. So even without paying GST, if you are transferring any goods, it has to be a supply. Actually, here para 2 also is applicable. It is a supply between distinct person or related person. It is treated as a supply. So Kolkata branch is supposed to pay GST on it. Okay. They have not paid it. That is and all different penalty provisions will be applicable. But still, what is the aggregate turnover? Should we include it? Yes. I have given a note here. Transfer of goods to branch or distinct person is categorized as supply under section 7 of CGST Act, read with schedule 1 guys. You can also mention that read with schedule 1. No adjustment is required for GST as it is already excluded. So here GST, without GST they have given 50 lakh. Clear? So without GST they have told it is not like they are told that GST is not paid. They have told without GST. 50 lakh is without GST. They would have paid tax on it. We don't know. We are not sure about it. But still 50 lakh is excluding GST. So straight away take 50 lakh. So what is the aggregate turnover of Gopal Das, I guess. Yeah, Gopal Das, 1 crore 42 lakh. They have just asked this. They have not asked anything else with respect to this, because there is one more question asked on this where they have also asked whether a person is liable to be registered anta. But here in this question they have not asked anything like that. So stop your solution here only, guys. Yeah, but don't straight away do this part. First explain what is aggregate turnover. So that is why I told you while explaining aggregate turnover definition, I told you it is very important. So please try to remember. There are some definitions which are very, very important from exam point of view, guys, like goods, services, composite supply, mixed supply, aggregate turnover, exempt supply. All these definitions you should know as it is. Clear? Yes. Chalo. We shall go to the second question now. Examine whether the liability to register compulsorily under section 24 arises in each of the independent cases mentioned below. So in each of the cases you should tell whether it is required to be registered compulsorily under section 24. What are those? One by one. Meenu. So in Kannada we call fish as Meenu. Actually, Meenu, a supplier in Maharashtra, is, I am Appata Kannadiga actually, but still I won't be using any Kannada in our explanations. Yeah, chalo guys. Meenu, a supplier in Maharashtra, is exclusively engaged in supply of potatoes produced out of cultivation of her own land within Maharashtra and also outside Maharashtra. So she is supplying only whatever she is growing or cultivating. So is she liable to get registered, guys? No, sir. The answer. So she is supplying outside the state. No problem. What she is supplying? Cultivation of land. So out of the cultivation of the land, which is exempt as per section 23. Section 24 provides that the person making any interstate taxable supply of goods are required to obtain registration mandatorily or compulsorily under GST laws, irrespective of quantum of aggregate turnover. However, as per section 23, an agriculturist to the extent of supply of produce out of cultivation of land is not liable to registration. Meenu is exclusively engaged in cultivation of and supply of potatoes. So she is doing agriculture. So thus she is not liable for registration irrespective of the fact that she is engaged in making interstate supply of goods, guys, because exemption is given in section 23. Further, Meenu will not be liable to registration even if her turnover exceeds the threshold limit. Even if her turnover is more than 20 lakh, 40 lakh, 50 lakh, whatever it is, she is not liable to get registered. If you are covered under section 23 subsection 1 clause A and B, for you turnover doesn't matter. If you are exclusively engaged in the supply of exempt outward supply or non, which is not livable to GST, or out of the cultivation of land, if you are an agriculture who is supplying out of the cultivation of land, irrespective of your turnover, you need not get registered, guys. Yeah, in simple, they are trying to exclude this farmers, agriculturist and all under section 23 clause, subsection 1, 23 subsection 1. Okay, next B. Genu Oils, Gujarat, is engaged in supplying machine oil as well as petrol. Further, it provides servicing of refining of oil to customers. Okay, so they're supplying two things, oil and petrol, plus it also provides some service, that is refining of oil to customers. Total turnover of supply of a machine oil is 10 lakh, supply of petrol is 5 lakh, and supply of services is 6 lakh. Okay. Answer. Section 24 specifies the categories of persons who are required to be mandatorily registered under GST irrespective of quantum of their aggregate turnover. In the given case, Genu Oils does not fall in any of the specified categories which are mentioned under section 24. There are totally 11 categories there. Therefore, it is not required to obtain registration compulsorily under GST. However, as per section 22 read with notification, a supplier is liable to be registered in his state or union territory from where he makes a taxable supply of goods or services if his aggregate turnover in a financial year exceeds the threshold limit. Here, sir, is he covered under section 23? No. Why? Because along with petrol, oil, he is also supplying services. So you are not covered under section 23 subsection 1, because 23(1) is only for the person who is exclusively providing, which is not taxable under GST or exempt supply. So here he is supplying petrol, oil along with services. So for you 23 exemption is not available. So you need to check whether 22 is applicable for you. So the threshold limit for a person making supply of both goods as well as services is 10 lakh for the states of Mizoram, Tripura and Manipur and Nagaland, and 20 lakh for the rest of India. Thus, the applicable threshold limit for the state of Gujarat. So this person is from Gujarat. So for Gujarat is a normal state. The applicable limit would be 20 lakh for the supply of both goods as well as services. Further, aggregate turnover includes exempted turnover also. Okay, so here the petrol, the non-taxable, which is a non-taxable item, still it will be included in exempt, because exempt includes non-taxable also. Agree? Yes, sir. So while calculating the turnover, Geno Oils is liable to obtain registration since its aggregate turnover is 20 lakh. How did you calculate? Add all three. Add all three. 10 plus 5 plus 6. 10 plus 5 plus 6. While calculating aggregate turnover, take everything. So is it more than 20 lakh? Yes. Is Geno Oils Limited supposed to get registered? Yes, they are supposed to get registered as per section 22 subsection 1. Clear? Sir, 40 lakh limit is applicable for them? No, they are providing goods as well as services. 40 lakh is only for exclusive supplier of goods. So please be careful. Okay. Next, coming to C point. Tillu is working as an agent, is supplying taxable goods as an agent of Tiku, who is registered taxable person. So Tiku here is principal. Okay. And its aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakh during the financial year. So Tillu is working as an agent. As per section 24, one of the point is telling, if you are supplying any goods on behalf of others, whether as an agent or otherwise, whatever name you give it for yourself, you are supposed to get registered. So irrespective of your turnover, if you are supplying any goods on behalf of others as an agent, you should get registered. So as per that provision, Tillu has to get registered, as is covered under section 24. So C point. Section 24 provides that persons who make taxable supply of goods and or services on behalf of other taxable persons, whether as an agent or otherwise, are required to obtain registrations compulsorily under GST laws, irrespective of the quantum of aggregate turnover. Therefore, Tillu will be mandatorily required to obtain registration. Tillu will be mandatorily required to obtain registration. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, third question is again on aggregate turnover. Giant Private Limited of Jaipur, Rajasthan, from the following provides the following information of supplies made for the year 1718. So what are those? Sale of high-speed diesel on which sales tax levied by Rajasthan government. So it is a non-taxable levy on which GST is not applicable, guys, as per section 9(2). It has been kept outside the GST. So 8 lakh. Okay. But while calculating aggregate turnover, you have to include the exempt supply. Exempt supply includes non-taxable supply. Okay, sir. Supply of goods directly by the principal from the place of Giant Private Limited after completion of job work done by Giant Private Limited. Understand this transaction. Here, Giant Private Limited is a job worker. So there is a principal who supplied the goods directly from Giant Private Limited to his customer. So whose turnover is this? Is it a turnover of principal or Giant Private Limited? It is a turnover of it is a turnover of principal, not Giant Private Limited. Giant Private Limited is just a job worker. He is doing the job work for the goods of principal. Principal asked me to supply the goods on behalf of him to his customer. I just supplied it. So will it be considered as turnover of Giant? No. supply of, there is an explanation for this. So supply of goods directly by the principal from the place of Giant Private Limited after completion of job work done by Giant Private Limited. So as per the explanation given to section 22, this should not be added to the turnover, guys. So this should not be added. Next, taxable outward supply within Rajasthan should be added. Inward supply of services on which GST to be paid by Giant Private Limited. So RCM case for the recipient, it will not be counted. It will be the turnover of supplier. So here for this Giant Private Limited is the recipient. So we should not include this. Then outward supply on which GST to be paid by recipient under reverse charge. See, this is a different story. So here this is the outward supply of a Giant on which the recipient will pay tax. So is it a turnover of Giant? Yes, it is a turnover. So please be careful. Whatever they have given in 4th and 5th is reverse cases. 4th case is Giant is the recipient on which he is liable to pay under tax under RCM. Should we include it in the turnover of Giant? No, sir. Next, Giant is supplying some goods on which recipient will pay tax under RCM. Should it be included in the turnover of the Giant? Yes, it is an outward supply for him. It has to be included. It has to be included. Yes, sir. Calculate the aggregate turnover for the purpose of registration under CGST Act 2017 and state whether Giant Private Limited is liable for registration or not. Also provide brief reasons for treatment of various items given above in the context of provisions of CGST Act 2017. So you should calculate aggregate turnover and should tell whether Giant Private Limited is supposed to get registered or not. Then you should also give reasons for your treatment. Note, all the above amount are exclusive of taxes of any nature. Okay, all the amounts are exclusive of taxes. Next, first one by one, calculation of aggregate turnover. Sale of high-speed diesel on which sales tax is levied by Rajasthan government. So is it a non-taxable levy? Yes, sir. As per section 9(2) on 5 petroleum products, that is PHD man, GST is not applicable as of now. It will be applicable from the day as decided by GST Council. Yes, sir. So it is a non-taxable levy, but exempt supply includes non-taxable levy and aggregate turnover includes exempt supply. See how the things are related. Aggregate turnover includes exempt supply. Exempt supply includes non-taxable supply. As per section 2(6) of CGST Act 2017, aggregate turnover includes the aggregate value of all the exempt supply. Thus, sale of high-speed diesel is an exempt supply as per section 247 and is therefore includable while calculating the aggregate turnover, guys. Fine. Next, supply of goods directly by the principal from the place of Giant Private Limited after completion of job work done by Giant Private Limited. It should not be included in the turnover of Giant Private Limited as per the explanation. Supply of goods directly by the principal from the place of job worker after completion of job work shall be treated as supply of goods by the principal. So it will be included in the turnover of principal in terms of explanation to section 22 of CGST Act 2017. So it is given as an explanation to section 22, guys. Next, taxable outward supply within Rajasthan. So it should be included. Then inward supply of services on which GST to be paid by Giant Private Limited. So for Giant, it is inward supply. We will not include it because aggregate turnover includes only outward supplies. Okay. Next, outward supply on which GST to be paid by recipient and reverse charges 1 lakh. So it is an outward supply for Giant. It has to be included. So for both these points, I have given note 3, which is a common note. Let us see that. The aggregate turnover excludes the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable under reverse charge to the recipient, but the same will be included in the aggregate turnover of supplier as it is outward supply for him. Yeah, and one more important thing, guys, here. I have not defined what is aggregate turnover here because for it is asked in June 2019 for 5 marks and the requirement of the question is more here. Okay, they have not just asked you to calculate aggregate turnover. They have asked you to give reasons for each treatment and also they have asked whether should he get registered on that. So the thing what you need to present in the exam is more. So that is why I have not defined aggregate turnover. Okay, if you have enough time, you can definitely define aggregate turnover also. Yeah, previously the first question was also an examination question which was asked for 5 marks. They just asked you to calculate aggregate turnover. That's all. So that is why, as it was for 5 marks, I defined what was aggregate turnover and then calculated it. Clear? So according to the marks weightage and the requirement of the question, you need to proceed and answer, guys. Okay, so this is in June 19 exam questions. Next, continuation. With respect to registration, should he get registration? What is his turnover? 15 lakh. Where is he from? Jaipur, Rajasthan, normal state. So now let us answer with respect to registration. As per section 22 of CGST Act, a supplier is liable to be registered if his aggregate turnover in a financial year exceeds 20 lakh. However, if supplier receives any inward supply on which GST to be paid by recipient under reverse charge, then is compulsorily required for registration even if its aggregate turnover is below 20 lakh as per section 24. Hence, Jayat Private Limited needs to be compulsorily registered even though his turnover is less than threshold limit. Why, sir? Because see, there is one scenario where RCM is applicable in which Jayant is liable to pay tax. So section 24 clearly tells if RCM is applicable for the recipient, he has to compulsorily get registered. He should compulsorily get registered. Yeah. Yes, sir. Now, sir, you may also ask, sir, in 23, exception is given where your outward supply is taxable under RCM, supplier need not get registered. Na? Yes, if it is the only supply for you, here, this one is not the only supply for him, he is supplying other things also. Agree, in that case, he has to get registered. Clear? Section 23 give exceptions for the supplier only when his entire outward supply is taxable under RCM. In that case, supplier need not get registered. So this scenario is not falling in that 23 section. Okay. Next, fourth one. State with reasons. It is a sub question asked in June 21. See, normally when they are asking sub questions means questions in the exam will ask either for 5 marks or 4 marks, guys. Yeah. So when they ask the questions for 5 marks, they would have given 5 sub questions there. Each sub question will be for 1 marks, or they would have given 4 scenarios. So for each scenario, 1 marks, like that. Yeah. So you only whatever is relevant to this chapter, I have taken only that much, not the entire question. State with reasons whether the following statements are true or false under GST law. A person, so they would have given 5 statements for 5 marks. So you need to tell true or false along with the reasons. Yeah. So whatever is relevant, only one sub question here, I have taken that. A person exclusively dealing in goods not liable to tax or only exempt from tax, having a turnover of 1 crore, is required to get registered under GST. No, false. If you are exclusively supplying which is exempt under GST or not liable to tax under GST, irrespective of your turnover, you need not get registered, guys. As per section 23 subsection 1 of CGST Act, any person engaged exclusively means only that, in the business of supplying goods or services or both that are not liable to tax or wholly exempt from tax under this act or under integrated, that is IGST Act 2017, is not liable for registration. Is not liable for registration irrespective of his turnover. You can mention that point also, irrespective of his turnover. Then coming to the fifth one. Discuss the provisions of GST laws in respect of following circumstances. Farmer A is engaged in farming and cultivates agricultural produce from his own land. He supplies agricultural produce worth 41 lakh, cultivation by him, and if he was doing only this much, registration was not required, and 6 lakh belonging to his friend to traders. So he is supplying out of his cultivation plus whatever his friend is growing. So he is also doing some trading. So in that case, for him, 23 exception is not applicable, guys. Whether he has to get registered under GST, yes, he has to get. 41 plus 7, he is having a turnover of 47 lakhs. 41 plus 6 actually. Yeah. In terms of section 23 subsection 1 of CGST Act, farmer shall not be liable to get registered under GST Act being an agriculturist to the extent of supply of produce out of cultivation of land. If he is doing only this, he need not get registered, irrespective of your turnover. In the given case, however, as the farmer has also supplied agricultural products processed by his friend in his total turnover crosses 40 lakh, that is 41 plus 6, and is not covered in the exception cases, which is beyond the threshold limit for getting registered. Hence, he will be liable to get registered under GST. So if he is supplying only goods, the threshold limit applicable for him is 40 lakh. Agree na? And as he crossed that, yes, he has already crossed it. So should he get registered? Yes, he should get registered. If he was supplying only out of the cultivation of land, then exemption was given under section 23. But he is also supplying whatever his friend is growing. So he is not covered under 23 exception, guys. Clear? Yes, sir. Chalo. So remaining questions, we will cover it later. Now we are done with 22, 23, 24, guys. Now we will be covering section 25 now. Section 25. Come to this. Come to this point. Procedure for registration. So till now, that is section 22, 23, 24 we have learned, and it will answer the question who should get registered. Now section 25 will tell how to get registered. So this will answer, section 25 will answer to the question how to get registered. How to get registered. Okay. That is answered in section 25. So now whoever is liable to get registered under GST, how they have to apply for registration, within what time they have to apply for registration. All those things are given in section 25, guys. So here we have various subsections. One by one, we will be covering it, guys. Sure. Yeah. As per section 25, subsection 1, every person who is liable to get registered under section 22 or 24, that is whoever is covered under 22 or 24, shall apply for registration in every such state, that is wherever they are having operations, or union territory, in which is also is so liable within 30 days from the date on which he becomes liable to registration, in such manner and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. That is, once you become liable for registration, within 30 days, you need to make application for registration. Registration can be granted after 30 days, but your duty is what? To apply for registration. Granting is proper officer duty. So what is your duty? To apply within 30 days. So once you got to know that you are covered under section 22 or 24 under any point, apply for registration within 30 days. Clear? Sir, what if I don't apply? There are penal provisions, which we will be seeing later. Clear? Yes. Example. Sugam Services Limited is engaged in taxable supply of services in Delhi. The turnover of Sugam Services Limited exceeded 20 lakh on 1st November. So on 1st November, he got liability to get registered. So he is liable to get registered on 1st November. So within 30 days, he is liable to apply for registration by 1st December. That is, within 30 days, he has to apply for registration. Clear? So for example, let me take. So on 1st November, I was liable for registration, guys. Okay. So I have applied for registration on 30th November. So applied on 30th November. Is it fine? Have I applied within 30 days? Yes. So registration, assume registration is granted on 5th December. So is it a violation? No. It is not a violation. The duty is to apply for registration within 30 days. Did I apply it? Yes. Registration is granted after 30 days. I don't have a problem. Okay, because for granting the registration, the proper officer will take some time. There is a procedure for it. I will discuss it. Okay, you will apply for registration, then proper officer, if he is satisfied, fine. If not, he will ask you for some response, some additional information. All those things are there, which we will discuss later. Clear? Yes, sir. So your duty is to apply for registration within 30 days. Okay. Next. Provided that a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person, two special persons, shall apply for registration at least 5 days before or prior to commencement of business. So we will learn about these two people in detail in section 27. So write read with section 27, guys. Yeah, I won't be explaining anything with respect to them here. Okay, when I go to 27, I will cover all the topics with respect to those two people. Okay, next. Provided further that a person having a unit in a special economic zone or being a special economic zone developer shall have to apply for a separate registration as distinct from his place of business located outside the special economic zone in the same state or union territory. What are they trying to tell in this point? Interesting, guys. So please pay attention here. Sir, registration under GST is state wise. So under GST, if you are having business in Karnataka, one registration is mandatory. Agree? Sir, I have 5 different branches in Karnataka. Should I take 5 different registration? Optional for you. But one registration mandatory. But assume in Karnataka, I have 2 branches. That too in Bangalore only. In Bangalore only, I have Bengaluru only. I have 2 branches. One in Electronic City. The other one is in Jayanagar. So Electronic City is a special economic zone declared by the government. I cannot declare it. Government will declare any area as special economic zone. Okay. Another area is Jayanagar, which is non-SEZ. It is not a SEZ. Okay, sir. So now how many registration should I take in Karnataka? 2 registration, mandatory. 2 registration. You have to take 2 separate registration. Yeah. Why means special economic zone and special economic zone developer, both of this means wherever they are having business will always be treated as a location outside India for GST purpose. So even SEZ is within the state or outside the state, still it will be treated as a location outside India, guys. So for example, now, sir, I have taken 2 different registration. Fine. You told you have to take 2 different registration. I took it. Now assume there is a supply from Jayanagar branch to Electronic City branch, which is SEZ. What is it? It is treated as interstate supply, guys. It is treated as interstate supply. Actually, it is 0 rated supply. If you are supplying anything to SEZ unit, it is or SEZ developer, it is always 0 rated. Sir, it is in Electronic City only now. How come it is 0 rated? That is why I told you. SEZ is a location which is treated as a location outside India for GST purpose. Yeah, I repeat. So if you have within the same state, if you have one branch in SEZ and another branch outside the SEZ, 2 registration is mandatory for you. And whenever you supply the goods from one branch to another branch, it is treated as interstate supply and IGST would be levied. But if you are supplying the goods to SEZ, it is always 0 rated supply. Sir, what if SEZ is supplying the goods to Jayanagar branch? It is not 0 rated. It is only interstate supply on which IGST will be paid. IGST would be paid. Yeah. What exactly is intrastate supply, interstate supply and all is covered in IGST Act, which we would be covering it when we go to IGST chapter, guys. There is a separate chapter for it. Yeah. So place of supply provisions and the nature of supply and all is covered under IGST Act under various sections. Yeah. So as of now, if you understand this much, more than enough, guys. I repeat, if you have 2 different branches in the same state, one is in SEZ, the other one is outside the SEZ, 2 registration is mandatory. If there is any supply between these 2 branches, it is always treated as interstate supply. If there is any supply to SEZ, it is always 0 rated. If there is any supply by SEZ, it is not 0 rated, but it is interstate supply. It is interstate supply. So please be careful. So this will be interstate. Clear? Yes. More about the 0 rated supply and all, we will be learning it in our IGST Act. Actually, 0 rated supply is covered in IGST Act under section 16. Yeah, let me read this proviso again. Provided further that a person having a unit in a special economic zone or being a special economic zone developer, that is the person who would develop the SEZ, shall have to apply for separate registration as distinct from his place of business located outside the SEZ, whether it is in the same state or union territory. Even if you are having different branches within the same state. Example, Suvarna Industries is engaged in manufacturing activities in Uttar Pradesh. It has 2 manufacturing units, one in UP and another that is in SEZ, and another outside SEZ. So they have two branches in Uttar Pradesh only. One is in SEZ, the other one is outside the SEZ. Under GST, one registration per state is required. However, since in this case one of the two units of Suvarna Industries is located in SEZ within the same state also, it will have to compulsorily make a separate application for registration at a place of business distinct from unit located outside SEZ. In simple, they have to take two different registration in Uttar Pradesh. One is for SEZ unit, the other one is for non-SEZ unit. Explanation. Every person who makes a supply from territorial waters of India shall obtain registration in the coastal state or union territory where the nearest point of appropriate baseline is located. Whereas means if you are supplying anything on the waters, then wherever the nearest baseline is there. So which state or union territory? Assume you are supplying the some goods or fish or items on waters. Where is the nearest baseline? Assume it is in Tamil Nadu. So in which state it is the supply has made? It is in Tamil Nadu. So take the registration in Tamil Nadu. It's like that. So now, sir, I am supplying the goods on water, which is very nearest to the baseline of Puducherry. Where should I apply and get the registration? In Puducherry. Clear? Next. If the proper officer doesn't take any action, see, once I apply for a registration, the proper officer has to accept or reject the application within 7 days. Okay, he can do anything. Okay, see, let me just explain that. See, I was liable for registration on this day. Okay, now I have made an application, applied. So once I have applied, so within 30 days I need to apply. Okay, now once I have applied, within 7 days, okay, the proper officer will have two options. So proper officer will have two options. He can accept it. If he is accepting, then he will issue me the registration certificate. That is, he will grant me the registration. Okay. If he is rejecting, before rejecting, he cannot straight away reject it. He should give me show cause notice. He should give me show cause notice telling, sir, why this information is given, I am not satisfied, or else if you want any additional information or clarification, he will issue a show cause notice to you. And once a show cause notice is issued to you, you reply for it. The applicant will reply for it. So the applicant will reply for it. Okay. And once the applicant reply for it, within 7 days again, within 7 days, the proper officer will again either accept or reject. If he is satisfied with your reply, he will accept and grant you the registration certificate. If he is not happy with your reply, whatever reply you are given, hey, what this dummy reply you are given, foolish reply. So he can reject your application. He can reject your application within 7 days. Now, sir, what if he don't respond? Now assume you have applied for registration, within 7 days he is silent. He has not accepted also. He has not given show cause notice also for you. It is understood that your registration is granted. It is implied that your registration is granted. Okay. Now, sir, the proper officer had given me the notice. I had replied for it. And within 7 days, he has not given any intimation. He has not accepted also. He has not rejected also. In that case, implied acceptance. Implied acceptance. That is what they have given here. Clear? This procedure again I will explain along with drawing this chart and all, because there are various forms also which has to be used here. When I cover that forms, I would be explaining this procedure by drawing a chart. Yeah. If a proper officer doesn't take any action within 7 days of submission of application along with necessary details and documents, or within 7 days of receiving the clarification so solicited, that is after receiving the reply, the application for grant of registration is deemed to be approved. If the proper officer doesn't tell anything, it is deemed to be approved. I am registered. From the 8th day, I'm registered. That's all. Thank you. Thank you for registering me. You can send one more text for him or one more reply for him. Next, subsection 2, state-wise registration. Section 25, subsection 2, read with rule 11. Registrations needs to be taken state-wise. That is, there are no centralized registration under GST. A business entity having its branches in multiple states will have to take separate state-wise registration for the branches in different states. So for each and every state, wherever you are having business, you have to take separate registration. But you need not take it for separately under CGST, SGST, UTGST. No. For each state, one registration you can take it. Next. Further, within a state, an entity with different branches shall be granted single registration, wherein it can declare one place as principal place of business and other branches as additional place of business. Now within the state, I have different branches. One registration is mandatory for you, where you can declare one branch or one place as principal place, all other place as additional place of business. However, separate registration for each place of business shall be taken. You can take it, optional for you. Also, shall be provided all separately registered places of business of such person pay tax on supply of goods or services both made to another registered place of business of such person and issue a tax invoice or bill of supply for such supply. Separate registration application needs to be filed for each place of business. Now, sir, I have 3 different branches in Karnataka. You can take three different registration, but if you take 3 different registration, all these 3 branches will be treated as distinct person. If you transfer anything from one branch to another branch, it will be treated as supply, guys, even without consideration, as per para 2, and you will end up paying tax on it, and you have to issue tax invoice for it. And when you are applying for different registration, you have to apply separately. You cannot apply it in one form. Please grant me registration for all these branches. You have to apply it separately from all the 3 different branches. Yeah, but it is a disadvantage for a person to take different registration within the same state, as if he transfer anything within the state, it will be considered as supply from one branch to another branch. So better not to take it, but if you feel it is necessary, yes, the person can take it. Option has been given. Example, Methalal and Sons, a supplier in Maharashtra, has 3 branches in Mumbai, Pune and Mahabaleshwar, all within the same state, Maharashtra. Mumbai and Pune branches are engaged in supply of garments and Mahabaleshwar branch engaged in supply of shoes. Either it can obtain single registration for Maharashtra, that is for all the 3 branches. Sir, they are doing 2 different business. No problem. There are 2 business vertical. Still, you can take single registration only. Either it can obtain single registration for Maharashtra, declaring one of its branches as principal place of business, let's say Mumbai, you can declare that as principal place, and other 2 branches, Pune and Maharashtra, as additional place of business, or it can obtain separate GST registration for each of the 3 branches, that is Mumbai, Pune and Mahabaleshwar, as separate place of business. In case of Methalal and Sons opts to have separate registration for its all 3 branches, and Mumbai branch sends some garments subject to GST for sale to Pune branch. If Mumbai branch is sending anything to Pune branch, as they have registered separately, it will be a supply, guys. Mumbai branch must raise a tax invoice and pay tax on such transfer of garments to Pune branch. So this is as per para 2 of schedule 1. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, 25.3. Coming to section 25, subsection 3, which talks about voluntary registration. Sir, I am not supposed to get registered. I am not covered in 22 also. I am not covered in 24 also. Still, I want to get registered. Can I get it? Yes. You yourself are trying to become Bakra. Proper officer will always be ready to welcome you, because the government will get more and more revenue now. Because once you get registered under GST, on all your outward supply, you are liable to pay tax. So, a person who is not liable to be registered under section 22 or 24 may get himself registered voluntarily. In case of voluntary registration, all provisions of this act as are applicable to the registered person shall apply to voluntary registered person. You cannot tell, sir, I have taken voluntary registration, so I will not pay tax, I will not file returns. No, you have to do it. However, Once a person obtains the voluntary registration, he has to pay tax even though his aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakh or 10 lakh. Sir, my turnover is only 5 lakh. Still, I took voluntary registration. Should I pay tax? Yes, you have to pay tax. Who asked you to take voluntary registration? Did I force you? No, nah. You have taken it. Pay tax once you get registered. Whatever outward supply you provide, you have to pay tax on it. Okay. Voluntary registration is usually obtained by business for ensuring seamless flow of credit to their customers. Yeah. Next, coming to subsection 4 and 5, which talks about distinct person and establishment of distinct person. We have already covered this when we were discussing schedule 1 also, guys, because schedule 1 talks about this distinct person, related persons and all. Let us go through it. What is given in section 25(4) is a person who has obtained or is required to obtain more than one registration, whether in one state or union territory, or more than one state or union territory, shall in respect of each such registration be treated as distinct person. So if there are number of registration under single PAN, all those registration will be treated as distinct person. Those registration might be within the state or outside the state. They will be treated as distinct person, guys. Yeah. Next, further, where a person who has obtained or is required to obtain registration in a state or union territory in respect of an establishment or as an establishment in another state or union territory, then such establishment will be treated as an establishment of distinct person. Along with the examples and all, I have explained it when we were covering schedule 1, guys, because schedule 1 para 2 and para 4 talk about this distinct person and establishment of distinct person. So it is important. So here provisions are given, but examples and all we have already discussed along with schedule 1. If you want, you can read with schedule 1. So there you can go through the examples I have explained there. Next, coming to subsection 6 and 7. So for the purpose of registration, PAN is must, guys. So we have seen registration under GST is state wise but PAN based. So without your PAN, you cannot get registration under GST. Clear? Under GST, GST IN, that is GST identification number, is a unique number which is based on your PAN, because out of the 15 digits, the 10 digits will be out of your PAN only. Agree? So without PAN, you cannot get registered. So in income tax also, PAN is unique number. So under GST, the GST IN is a unique number, but still which is based on PAN only. Okay, sir. So permanent account number is mandatory to be eligible for grant of registration as per section 25(6). But an exception has been given to non-resident taxable person may be granted registration on the basis of any other prescribed documents, because non-resident taxable person might not be having PAN in India. So for him, PAN is not must. Registration can be granted for him based on any other document. That is what is given in 25(7). Yeah. Now, recently, due to some Aadhaar authentication and all, so you know, government has taken a lot of steps recently in last 1, 2, 3 years to link your Aadhaar with whatever possible. Link your Aadhaar with mobile number, link your Aadhaar with your bank account, link your Aadhaar with PAN, everything. So even under GST, they are trying to link your GST registration with Aadhaar. Clear? There are two possibilities here. That is, before the introduction of this provision, that is 25(6)A, 6B and all, they are different sections. This came later. It was not introduced in 2017. It was recently introduced, I think, in 20 or 21. So before the introduction of this section, if you have already obtained the registration, then you have to give your Aadhaar for the department. Means on your GST profile in the GST portal, that is gst.gov.in, you have to quote your Aadhaar. Means you have to just give your Aadhaar number. If you have already taken registration, before the implementation of this section or before this section coming to picture, if you had already taken registration under GST, you have to give your Aadhaar. If not, your registration will become invalid. Okay, that is what they told. Or now, assume after introduction of this section, you are applying for registration. So you are applying for registration now. So without your Aadhaar, you cannot get registration. Okay, but there are few cases where your Aadhaar might not be linking, because there might be a mobile number which you have given, other mobile number you have given for the Aadhaar, so Aadhaar OTP might not be matching for you and all. So in that case, second option is given, which is physical verification. Okay, I repeat, if you are a person who is applying for registration now, Aadhaar is mandatory. You have to give your Aadhaar if you want to get registration. So in your application itself, you have to quote your Aadhaar. Okay. But if by chance, if you are not getting Aadhaar authentication due to OTP, you are not able to get your OTP or it is not matching, then second option is given, that is physical verification. So the proper officer will come, physically verify your place of business, then he will grant the registration. Clear? That is the second priority. First priority is always Aadhaar authentication, guys. Clear? So there are two things. Whoever is already registered before introduction of these sections 25(6)(a), B, C, D and all, they should provide their Aadhaar, or else their registration will become invalid. Or else the person, whoever is applying for registration now, they have to give their Aadhaar. If it is not able to authenticate their Aadhaar, then physical verification will be done by the proper officer. Yeah, that is what is given in this sections, guys. There are various sections which talks about Aadhaar now. 25(6)(a), B, C, D. We will see that. Every registered person, means you are already registered, shall undergo authentication or furnish proof of possession of Aadhaar number in such form and manner within such time as may be prescribed. So what is this? What should we do? Simple. You are already registered. So you are having a profile on GST portal. Go there. There will be asking the Aadhaar number. Give it. That's all. You just give your Aadhaar number. Provided that if Aadhaar number is not assigned to a registered person, sir, what if I am not having Aadhaar number? Such person shall be offered alternate and viable means of identification in such manner as government may on the recommendation of the council. Means you will be given an alternate option if by chance if you are not having Aadhaar. Every existing registered dealer, means if you are already registered under GST, shall have to get himself verified with the help of Aadhaar number or by alternate viable means within specified time, or it shall be deemed as if it does not have any registration. Means your registration will become invalid if you fail to do your Aadhaar authentication. And they are also giving some deadlines for all this. So as of now, they keep on extending those. So you need not worry about what is the deadline, what is the time limit within which we have to link it. This is what the provision given in 6A. So 6A spoke about who is already registered under GST. So 6B and C is talking about who is applying for registration now. Who is applying for registration now. Section 25 subsection 6B. For fresh registration, every individual shall have to authenticate himself with Aadhaar number. Means whenever he is applying for registration, in his application itself, he has to give his Aadhaar. In case Aadhaar number is not assigned to him, means if he is not having Aadhaar, then the registration will be granted only after physical verification of principal place of business in the presence of the said person. Means the person who has applied for registration, applicant we call it as. Not later than 30 days from the date of application, and the verification report along with the other document, including the photographs, shall be uploaded in form GST REG 30 on the common portal. REG stands for registration. On the common portal, that is gst.gov.in, within a period of 15 working days following the date of such verification. Now, every individual who is applying for a registration under GST has to give his Aadhaar. If you don't have Aadhaar, or else there are practical scenarios where the people are not able to authenticate their Aadhaar because they are not getting the OTP on their mobile number. In that case, the proper officer will physically come and verify your place of business, and within 15 days of you applying for registration, and once he physically verify, he has to report along with other details in REG 30 on the common portal within 15 days of conducting the verification. He has to give the details in REG 30 on the GST portal. That what is the results of physical verification, he has to give the details there. Yeah. So 6B spoke only about the individuals. Individual is the one who will have Aadhaar. Now, sir, what if the company, partnership firm, HUF, AOP, if they are applying for registration, what they will do? They will give the Aadhaar of the person who is the face of it. For example, for a company, managing director, for HUF, Karta, or for partnership firm, partners. So if company, partnership firm or Karta, or sorry, HUF, if anyone other than individuals, if they are applying for registration, then look who is the individual who is the face of that their Aadhaar will be given. Their Aadhaar will be given. That is what subsection 6C is talking about. In case of a person other than individual, such as partnership firm, AOP, BOI, company, trust, etc., for getting fresh registration, authentication shall be done by Aadhaar number of whom? Of the individuals who are face of it. Of a partner in case of partnership firm, authorized representative, and in case of company managing director, trustee, etc. And in case of HUF and all, Karta. In case Aadhaar number is not assigned to such person or class of person, then again same story. Physical verification will be done within 15 days. Then once physical verification is done, he has to report. Sorry, within 30 days, physical verification will be done. Then once the physical verification is done, the report has to be given by the proper officer within 15 days on the GST portal in REG 30. So small clarification here. Physical verification will be done within 30 days of you making an application for registration, and once the physical verification is completed by the proper officer within 15 days, he has to report it along with some details in REG 30 on the common portal. Yeah, yes sir. Next, coming to 6D. 6D is telling, okay, for the following people, Aadhaar authentication is not applicable. Who are those? Section 625 subsection 6D of CGST Act stipulates that provisions relating to Aadhaar authentication shall not apply. So Aadhaar authentication shall not apply to such person or class of persons or any state or union territory or part thereof as may be notified. So the following persons have been exempted from Aadhaar authentication. Who are those? A person who is not a citizen of India, so they will not be anyway having Aadhaar. Then department or establishment of state government, central government, local authority, statutory body, public sector undertaking, a person applying for unique identity number. So the following people are not supposed to get their Aadhaar authentication, guys. Yeah, yes. Next, suo motu registration by proper officer as per section 25(8). Now, proper officer got to know that a person who is supposed to get registered has not got registered. So in that case, the proper officer only can grant the registration for him directly. Yeah, I repeat, proper officer got to know there is a person who was supposed to get registered under GST because of any inquiry, search or anything. So he got to know there is a person who is supposed to get registered under GST, but he has not got registered. So in that case, he can register that person on a temporary basis under GST. So he will grant a temporary registration for you. And once temporary registration is granted for a person, he has to apply. He has to follow the normal procedure. He will apply for registration and get the registration done. Clear? This is the power given to the proper officer. Next, 25(9) and 10 talks about unique identity number. So here they are trying to tell, so there might be some foreign officials in India who are representing the foreign country in India. Okay, like foreign embassy, consulate and all. So these people have come to India not to supply anything. They come to India to give services to their foreign country through India, from India. Okay. Now, they have to obtain something called a unique identity number. Why, sir? Because these people will not make any outward supply, but they may take some inward supply on which they would have paid GST. Yes. And government gives the refund of it for them. Okay. Whatever tax they have paid on their inward supply, government give the refund of it. And the government should have a track of it. Nah? So that is why they're asking them to take something called as unique identity number. And this is not the GST registration number. We are not granting registration for them. They are just obtaining this number, and it is not state-wise. It is for India, one number only. Yeah. So those people will apply for unique identity number and get it done. And if they have paid any tax on their inward supply, they can claim a refund of it. Okay. Just to track that refund, they will be allotting something called as unique identity number under GST. Yeah. Yes. So do we call these people as registered under GST? No, no. They are not registered. If you are registered under GST, you will be allotted GSTIN. That is different. UIN is different. Clear? Yes. Any specialized agency of UNO, that is like WTO, WHO, UNESCO, anything like that, or any multilateral financial institution and organization as notified under the United Nations Privileges and Immunities Act 1947, consulate or embassy of foreign countries, and any other person notified by the commissioner is required to obtain a UIN for GST portal. That is GST network, we call it as GST network portal. So they can obtain UIN from there. This UIN is needed for claiming refund of taxes paid on notified supply of goods and or services received by them, and for such other purposes as may be notified. UIN granted is a centralized UIN. You need not take it separately for each state, and that is, it shall be applicable to the entire territory of India. A person having UIN is not registered, is not called registered person under GST. He is not a taxable person. He is also not a taxable person, guys. Because if he is a registered person, if we treat him as a registered person, then whatever supply he gives to his country, is it treated as supply? No, it is not treated. Then, yeah, we are left with some more topics. We'll just cover it and close this video. Rule 10, very important rule. What is it? We will see. Issuance of registration certificate and effective date of registration. So you have applied for registration within 30 days or after 30 days is a second story. So if the proper officer is satisfied with whatever information is given, he will grant you the registration. Or if he is not satisfied, by issuing a show cause notice, he can ask for additional information, explanation, additional documents or anything. Later, if he is satisfied, he will grant a certificate for you, registration certificate. So what is it? Where the application for grant of registration has been approved, a certificate of registration in form REG 6. So registration certificate will be granted in GST REG 6, guys, showing the principal place of business and additional place of business is made available to the applicant on the common portal of, and a goods and service tax identification number, that is GST IN, that is the GST registration number, is communicated to the applicant within 3 days from the date of grant of registration. So once your registration is granted, within 3 days, a unique number will be allotted to you, which is called GST identification number. Clear? Yes, sir. Next, effective date of registration. Let me explain this first here. So assume, guys, you are liable to registration on 1st November 22. Okay, sir. And you have applied for registration on 15th November 22. Okay, sir. Next, registration is granted on 20th November 22. Okay, sir. Now, rule 10 is telling, if you have applied for registration within 30 days, have you applied? Yes, sir, I have applied it. So in that case, your effective date of registration, you are called registered person from what date? 1st November only. On what day you are liable for registration? 1st November. From that day itself, you are called registered person. And hope you guys can connect it to 18.1a. 18.1a will tell, in this case, whatever stock you are having on 31st October 22 of raw material, WIP and finished goods, you can claim a credit of it. You can claim a credit of it. So ITC on stock, you can claim it. Agree na? Yes, sir. So somewhere related to 18.1a. Yes, sir. Next, next different scenario. Let me change it just a second. Now, I have applied for registration on 15th December and registration is granted on 20th December. So I have applied after 30 days. I have applied after 30 days. So in that case, rule 10 is telling, you will be a registered person from the date of grant of registration. So you will be called as a registered person from what date? 20th December, the date of grant of registration. And once the registration is granted, within 3 days, your identification number also will be allotted for you. Okay. Now, sir, is 18(1)(a) is applicable in this case? No. If you have not applied within 30 days, 18(1)(a) beneficial provision is not at all applicable for you. You cannot claim ITC on your stock. Clear? Yes, sir. So this is what is told in Rule 10, guys. So Rule 10 is very, very important, because even when we go to invoice chapter also, there is a point on this with respect to this Rule 10. We will be discussing there. Yeah. The effective date of registration. In case the application is submitted within 30 days of the person becoming liable to register, it shall be the date on which the person becomes liable for registration. So the date on which I am liable for registration, if I apply within 30 days. And second scenario, if the application is submitted after 30 days of the person becoming liable to register, it shall be the date on which the registration is granted to such person. The date of grant of registration. Clear? Yes, sir. Examples. I have given 2 examples here. Sugam Services Limited is engaged in taxable supply of services in Madhya Pradesh. The turnover of Sugam Services Limited exceeded 20 lakh on 1st November. It is liable to get registered by 1st December. That is within 30 days. In the state of Madhya Pradesh. Means he has to apply within 1st December. Okay. It applies for registration on 28th November and is granted registration certificate on 5th December. Registration is granted after 30 days. But when did you apply? Within 30 days. So the effective date of registration of Sugam Limited is 1st November. That is the date on which he was liable for registration. Can he claim the credit? From 1st November, whatever input or input services he purchased, he can claim the credit of it. Even capital goods. Even on 31st October, whatever stock of raw material, WIP and finished goods he is having, he can claim the credit of that also, as per section 18(1)(a). Okay. Next. In the above example, if Sugam Services Limited applies for registration on 3rd December, that is after 30 days, and is granted registration certificate on 10th December, okay, registration certificate is granted on 10th December, the effective date of registration of Sugam Services Limited is 10th December. That is the date of grant of registration. So anything inward supply they purchase on or after 10th December, they can claim a credit of it. Okay. Sir, what about the stock which they have purchased before 10th December? Can they claim the credit? No. So even whatever stock they are having on 9th December, they cannot claim the credit of it. Clear? This is all about Rule 10, which is very important, guys. Then coming to Rule 10A. Rule 10A, see guys, when a person is applying for registration, in his application itself, he will give the bank account details normally. But if by chance, if I am the person who is starting the business newly and I have not yet opened my bank account, so in that case, can I apply for GST registration and get it done without bank account details? Yes. Okay. If you don't have bank account details as of now, apply for registration under GST, get it done. But within the time limit given under Rule 10A, you have to give your bank account details. So Rule 10A is applicable only for those who has not given their bank account details when they are making the application for registration. So they are giving some maximum time limit to give the bank account details. What is it? We will see. Bank account details may be furnished after obtaining registration certificate as per Rule 10A. So what is it? While applying for registration on GST portal, a person is required to furnish the details of his bank account. This requirement has now been relaxed to a limited extent by inserting a new Rule 10A to CGST rules. In pursuance to the same, the registered person is allowed to furnish information with respect to details of bank account or any other information as may be required on the common portal in order to comply with any other provision soon after obtaining certificate of registration. So you can apply for registration without bank details. You can obtain the registration certificate. So registration certificate is granted. So once the registration certificate is granted to you and GSTIN is allotted to you, but not later than 45 days from the date of grant of registration or the date on which the return required under section 39, that is first GST or 3B, is due to be furnished, whichever is earlier. That is, before you file your first GST or 3B, the due date to file your first GST or 3B, or within 45 days from the date of grant of registration, whichever is earlier, you have to give your bank account details if you have not given it at the time of application. This relaxation is not available for those who have been granted registration as TDS deductor or TCS collector, or who have obtained suo motu registration. So if you are taking registration as TDS deductor, TCS collector, or voluntary registration and all, for you option is not given to give bank account details later. You have to give your bank account details at the time of application only. Clear? For others, yes, they have been given some extra time. You can make the application now without bank account details. You can give it later, but within 45 days from the date of grant of registration or the due date of filing first GST or 3B, whichever is earlier. Clear? Yes, sir. However, if a person violates the provisions of Rule 10A, if you violate the provision of Rule 10A, his registration is liable to be cancelled. Means, sir, I have applied for a registration and I have got the registration without bank account details. But within 45 days, I failed to give the bank account details. So in that case, your registration will be cancelled as per Rule 21. Yeah, and there is a separate section for this. Cancellation of registration can be done as per section 29. We will be learning that in the later part of this chapter, guys. Yeah, in the next class. Next, 25 is completely done, read with rules also. So 25, please be careful. There are various subsections, guys. So after that, we have also covered Rule 10 and 10A. Rule 10 is very, very important. Then deemed registration, 26. Section 26 is telling, if you have taken a registration under the respective state, it is understood that you are registered under CGST also. Clear? You need not apply for CGST registration separately and get it done. Clear? So what is it? Registration under GST is not tax specific, which means that there is a single registration for all the taxes, that is CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST and cesses. Grant of registration, that is UIN, under any SGST or UTGST Act is deemed to be the registration or UIN granted under CGST Act, provided application for registration has not been rejected. Application for registration is not rejected under CGST Act. So wherever you are having business, you apply for the registration in that respective state, and if you are registered there, it is understood that you are also registered under CGST. You need not apply separately and take it. But if by chance you applied for registration and if it is rejected under CGST Act, it is deemed that it is also rejected under SGST Act. Further, rejection of application for registration or UIN number under SGST Act or UTGST Act is deemed to be rejection of application for registration under CGST Act. So if your application is rejected under CGST Act, or if the application for registration is rejected under SGST or UTGST Act, then it is deemed that even under CGST Act it is rejected. So don't try to apply and check under CGST Act, let me apply and try anta. It is deemed to be rejected. Yeah, and especially guys, please be careful with UIN, that is unique identification number. It is a one registration which is granted for entire India. No separate registration for each state should be taken. Okay, it is actually not called registration. It is just an allotment of number, unique identity number, for some foreign officials or the members of what is that? The members of just a second. United Nations Organization, UNO. Sorry, just forgot. UNO, like WHO, WTO, UNESCO, all this are World Labor Organization. Everyone will come under this. Yeah. Yes, sir. Sure. Fine, guys. So we'll stop it here. So we have covered it till section 26 in today's class. We have covered which all sections? Come on. 22, 23, 24, 25 and also 26. So come to the first page of your notebook. I guess you have written till 25. Also write 26, guys, there under CGST Act. So also write section 26 there. In content you write deemed registration. Deemed registration. Clear? Yes, we have some more provisions to be covered, which we will do it in the next class. And also we have some more problems to discuss. We will do it in the next class, guys. So hope everything was clear for you guys. Do study regularly. Enjoy your studies. Bye for now. Take care and bye bye, guys. Bye.